thanks for everyone joining. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. I know some of you on here, some I don't. We're basically letting everyone know what's going on with the new GA4. It's a big change from Universal Analytics, the old UA version 3. We're targeting our current clients and letting them know we're handling this process for them. There's nothing they have to do. You are able to create your own accounts. If you don't have one already, you can go to analytics.google.com. You sign in with your Google account, and it'll let you continue to create one from there.
Yeah, so as John mentioned, this is really putting together for our clients, but we've got several folks who we've just contacted and are welcome to join. So this presentation is really about using GA4. So it's the assumption that everybody has the account set up. And again, as John mentioned, we've already done that for all of our customers. So we're not going to be covering the setup process, but you should be able to go and figure that out if you need to do so.
Yep. And just before we get started, I wanted to remind everyone, if you do have a question, click the chat icon in the bottom right, and it'll open up a white box window, and you can type your questions in there. We'll answer them at the end of the presentation. So the first point is, why are we here? Google's doing a big update to their analytics. It's a big change. They're changing how data is being processed. Everything's going to be converted to, it's called events. It's on a new GA4 platform. All this begins on July 1st. After July 1st, all the old data feeding into Universal Analytics will come to a halt. From then on, all information is now processed through GA4.
Yeah, and as John mentioned, July 1st is kind of the date when the old system will no longer be gathering data. And take it from somebody who's probably older than most on the call and used this for a long time. I had plenty of moans and groans when it was first announced because I'm so used to and comfortable with the old system. But actually in preparing for this presentation and getting all of our customers set up, we've gone through the new system, and it's got quite a few neat things on it. So there's a lot of good stuff, and we're hoping that this presentation lets everybody on the call get a little more comfortable with the new system and how it works. But a key thing that John mentioned here is come July 1st, the old data or the old system will no longer compile data. And at this point, Google is only committing to keeping that old data live for 6 months. So for the rest of the year, us will be able to reference the old systems and look up the old data and use it for comparison or information. But by the end of the year, they're not guaranteeing it to be available. My personal opinion is it'll go a little longer than that, but we'll probably be working on a way to export that data and save it if it's needed. And if that's important to you, you might want to think about doing that as well. So, but again, we're really here to talk about what's new and how things work. So, John, I'll kind of let you get started.
Okay. So how is it different? I was touching up on this last time. Normally, it just collected data in and fed it as like session data, real basic. Now it's tracking everything as events. Literally every interaction on the website is an event now. This offers a lot more flexibility for analytics, and it allows it to do a better job and faster speed as well. So that's always an overall improvement.
And when John mentions faster speed, one of the things we've looked at and probably even had discussions with a few of you on this call in the past is the speed of pages loading. And one of the things, believe it or not, that could make pages lag was the speed of loading the Google Analytics, which is now significantly quicker. And the other key thing, just very important to reiterate, is Google's really focused now on events, actions on the site. That's the mainstay and the core of GA4. So it has changed how goals are derived and considered, but it does make them easier to track, which is one of the things that I think is nice, and we'll be going through that. And again, but a goal is now called an event. So John references events, which he's going to go and run through and tell us, that's kind of what we want to think about, the things that happen. So do your thing.
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to be covering today is the new dashboards with informational summary cards, page views and traffic, which consists of how many visitors came to the site, what pages did they view. We often go through this during our quarterly review meetings with our clients. We also like to see how long they spent on the site, what did they search for, which is a bonus card we'll get into, and then of course events, which is the main focus on GA4. From there, we'll show you a couple comparisons, or one comparison, and then a little insight on the old data and new data moving forward. So starting with dashboard and cards, I'm going to load a live example for us to look at. Now, when you load into GA4 Analytics, this screen that we're looking at is known as a dashboard. Each square block is a summary card, and this can be configured for each aspect of analytics, depending on what type of report you're trying to look at. Right now, we're looking at the report snapshot, which is like a general overall review. So right now, this is what you want to. You quickly load into GA4 and put the things here that you want to find quickly. You don't want to have data here that doesn't pertain to you. So we customize this, which is one of the benefits of GA4. You can customize any of these cards and add and remove these cards to mold to what you're looking for.
So if you find geography information important in the when you're looking at your data, if you were to find origin information important, John, could you keep that screen back up? Yeah, that's great. So if you were to find origin information, you could make those your top cards or your bigger things. So you're going to be able to customize your dashboard really just by selecting what's on the left side and organizing what you want. John, you maybe want to give them a quick rundown if they were going to change one of the cards?
Yeah. So it's really simple. That's what I like about this too. You just go up in the top right corner, hit customize. And right here is what we're seeing already. So from here, I can either quickly hit the X and remove it, or I can simply hit the plus and add. And the cool thing here is they have a lot of presets that you can add quickly if you're looking for something specific. So I'm going to add users by browser. I want to see what web browsers, what they're using for that. That sometimes helps with figuring out your audience. So I can see here Chrome, Safari, Edge, and you can really mold this to what you're trying to find with your target audience. So we like category, region, event names, what pages did they join. And then you can simply hit save. I'm going to save changes to current report. Save, and now that is permanently applied. So when I sign back into my GA4 and go to my report snapshot, it is now here at the bottom. It's really simple.
So I'd suggest everybody kind of goes in, and after you've gotten yourself adjusted, figure out what's important, save your card. So those are the first things you look at. And if you decide tomorrow or next week you want to change them, it's easy to do that as well. But definitely a neat thing. I like this more than the old system because I come in and staring at me right in the face with the 5 or 6 different things that I want to look at quickly. So that's a plus.
Definitely. So moving from there, we have a new report called Pages and Screens. It's essentially a page view report. We've looked at this many times, but they changed it a little bit on how it operates in GA4, but we can still apply the same data that is visible. So I'm going to click a live example for us to view. So we're doing it for this website here. And so right now, this page view screen is showing me how many views for each website URL, each page on the website, how many views it got, how many users actually joining, and then also how many average views per user. All of this can be tweaked as well, and that's what I want to show you here. So we got average engagement time, event count, conversions, and revenue. So there's a lot of different views that you can get on the screen. So we're going to do a little bit customized, and that's why I want to show you it's related to the cards. Now this one, we're not on the report snapshot. So this one, you do have to dive in one more step. It's metrics. And then here's where you can add and remove your cards. So it's a little different here. Let's do page duration. So I just did a small tweak. I removed a couple cards, added one to the page view report. And this is a little bit different than the report snapshot.
And one of the things that's a new feature that I think is valuable, as John mentioned, this is a page we'd often go to and look kind of the core when reviewing a site. Hey, what pages are getting activity? How long are people staying when they enter or exit through those pages? But what's new here is the event count. So that was something that didn't exist in the old system. So they're basically showing how many events took place by people on those pages. And those events are different things of PDF downloads, form fills. There's a whole list of things I think John's going to share with you at some point. But that's a new feature, and that's one of the things that GA4 is trying to bring to the forefront. Hey, it's great people went to the page, but were they doing things? So that's why they have this event count, and the total events is one of their default settings in here. And even if we've got to kind of figure out exactly what does that mean, what's a good threshold, what's too many if there is such a thing. Don't know that yet because this is new data, but certainly important. When people are going someplace, you want it to be taken action. And now that's much easier to measure and see in front of you on the GA4.
That's right. So page views, so we just went through the page view report, pages and screens. Moving on to the next. It's user attributes. It's also known as demographics. They changed it. This is another small, subtle change in GA4. It's no longer demographics, even though this is still demographics. You still find age, location, where they're from, everything a little bit about the person. I'm going to click the live sample for us to review. This is also very useful information. We also have a user attribute dashboard. It's very similar to the reports dashboard, but this one's strictly targeting demographics only, not overall. So we got country, region, city. We got a live tracker in the last 30 minutes, 15 have been live. How did they get here? The origin of the user. Was it desktop, mobile, tablet? Did they come from Google, direct, organic, or not?
Yeah, and even language, what's their native language, or if you have sites that are set up with multiple languages, it tells you. And this dashboard, although it's the user attribute dashboard, you could customize just like the others. Use the pen, don't even have to do it, but you kind of get the scheme of how all of this works. But here you'd put in country is important if you're doing things in a lot of places. For most of our customers, the region really translates to state is important. For companies that have regional services, or they maybe serve a couple of states, you'd want to break that down by city. Knowing what's happening in the last 30 minutes is helpful. You can also break it down by time of day, where to come from. So again, you kind of figure out what are the 3 or 4 things that are important to you, set up your dashboard for the user attributes, and you could see in a flash. So for us, and the things I'd kind of recommend, it's typically region, where are they coming from. One thing we don't have on here is I like to see devices. We definitely see in the B2B space and those that are industrial companies, the desktop is going to be more valuable than the mobile. So having that, we do have that here. So having that right up top is helpful to know. I like to see the things in the last 30 minutes. So those are kind of some of the key things that we like to see. But again, you could set this up, whatever is important to you or other programs you might be running at your organization. So, but pretty easy to set up and has that dashboard and card structure. And that's how everything works.
Yeah, and just one more quick point to add on to that is with the user attributes, they do have one more level. You could dive deeper if you decided you wanted more deeper information. In this case, it's set by region. So now I get more of a actual report by region now, instead of just an overall dashboard of cards. So
Okay.
it's just something to be, it's
Yeah,
very
well,
helpful
helpful
and
to be.
useful.
Yeah, in the current system, those of you that use it, that would be similar to what they call a secondary search attribute. So here you just go into the demographic details. So if you use the secondary attribute in the existing system, that would correspond to the demographic details in this.
Yep.
Very good.
Very good info. All right, so moving on. So now, as a part of that report, of other reports we like to view in analytics, it's very beneficial is the origin of traffic. Where does it come from? How did it get there? That's the source and the medium. Did it come from Google or Facebook, or did it come from paid ads, or was it organic? It's all very beneficial information. And then we also want to know if it was limited. But before we get started, I wanted to show you what the actual source medium report does look like live. And this is very good. So this is over the last 30 days. On this website, I can see they had over 16,000 direct website visits, and over 1,800 came from Google pay per cost per click, which is the ads, and then Google organic, over 800. So this all data. This is another report we go over during our review meeting. It's very useful information. We like to see how many users are coming to the site, how did they get there exactly, even how many are returning users is good. And as always, how long did they stay on the site for? We see this Google organic traffic averages 9 minutes per site. That's very good information. So we do like to cover the source medium reports.
And one of the things that we're now going to get to the news that some might feel is not so great. You notice we have only 4 sources listed. And if I would be looking at this on our current system, there would probably be 100 different referrals, different magazines, different things that stuff comes in. And if you notice where John is pointing now, there's a little caution sign, and it says some thresholding was applied. John, if you'd click on the learn more. So here's one of the things that's significantly different. Google, for reasons of meeting privacy policy requirements, a bit in the US, but a lot more in Europe. John, if you just go up to
right here.
Right where it says, kind of want to highlight this. So Google, upon their own determinations, and it's different for every account, will limit the amount of detail you get. So in this case, it's the amount of refers or where people are coming in from, if they feel that that can help people determine or even infer, if you see above, they use the word inferring, the identity of folks. So if there is any belief in the Google system that the amount of data you're gathering or the type of data could help identify a person or a group of folks, it is now being governed. And as you could see what John highlighted there, we wanted to bring to everybody attention. There is no way to adjust that or to ask them to change it. It's 100% their decision. And we haven't found it to be ultra significantly altering, but here was a specific example where it's on this site, which is, if I look on the old system, I would see, boy, 50 people came in from this magazine, 20 people from this email. I'd see how many people came in from LinkedIn and Facebook. And for whatever reason, they've determined in this circumstance that could reveal those folks' identities, or at least let us infer who they were. So that's being withheld. I feel that moving forward, it'll probably be more significant on any social media incoming links, because of course with social media, every page is actually owned by a person. So under identity, and privacy. So for gathering data, as business owners or marketing folks, we go, boy, that's less data we have, kind of a negative. You want to look on a personal front for privacy, for maybe getting a few less spam inquiries, for getting a few less ads because you once looked at something that can beat eggs and cook them at the same time. You could consider this a win because they're going to be withholding some of that information and letting you keep your information a little more private. So just wanted to share that. The fact is, whatever they govern is governed. So if you're seeing a little less data in some places, which we definitely have, look for that little caution sign like it's up at the top. And if that exists, you can know it exists and it's being governed. Fortunately, you can't do anything about it. You just have to figure out how to work your business around it. So that's something we wanted to present, and that is a limiting factor. That's a fact of Google tracking moving forward.
Yep. So that's very good. All right, moving forward now. Another feature, this actually already existed in the old analytics, but we still want to cover it. It's very helpful. You do it in new GA4, it still exists. You can select and compare date ranges. We'd love to do this over the last 30 days, 90 days, even a year, depending on what we're doing. I'm going to show you a live example of that as well. It's good to see it going. This is also another thing we like to do with our previous page and views reports during our quarterly review meetings. We like to compare how you've been doing over the last month or 3 months or 6 to a year. We can do this in GA4. You just go on the top right corner. Right now, we can set last 30 days and then simply click compare at the bottom and hit apply, and it automatically will do the next or the previous 30 days after that. So what that does now is it changes the data presented slightly. We can see pluses and minuses now and how much of a difference it is now. So in this example, this page on this website went up over 500% of a change from the previous 30 days, which is approximately a 9% boost. So that's pretty big. We do go through everything like this during our meeting, but right now I'm just showing you that you can compare previous dates and still do access that in GA4 the same way, and what you can do with the data from there.
Yeah. Now, one of the keys here is over time, be able to do this all day long, no problem. For now, we're going to be limited on how far back we can go because obviously the GA4 data we've just recently started to collect. So doing a 30-day comparison is feasible, but we can't do a 90-day. Even though that data exists in the old system, and we know it exists, and we've been helping to gather it, the old Universal Analytics is completely disconnected from the new GA4. So I could not, in GA4, do a comparison of this year to last year because that data doesn't exist in GA4. So we could do some comparisons, back to my earlier comment about you can go into Universal and we can look up certain parameters and just manually compare them. Oh, this was 106. Here it's 126. Obviously, there'll be some data we'll be able to export, and you can potentially do some things manually on Excel. But anything about the old data will be outside of the GA4 platform, and you're going to have to compare independently. So that's a negative. That's a fact of life. Believe me, we spend a lot of time asking questions, trying to get a hold of folks, looking in nooks, crannies, and little openings, and we'll save you a bunch of time. Don't look for your old data in here. It doesn't exist. The best thing we do is keep the old systems up, and then we can reference it and be able to look across those periods manually when needed. So that's a fact of life. And next, John will share with you a few other good things. So we got to take it with the bad.
Yep. All right, moving forward here. Let's see. So now we're at the good part, the events. Like I said, this is the main forefront GA4. They track everything now Every interaction on the website is an event of some sort. Some good ones are like form submissions, file downloads, page views. Everything can be measured, and I'm going to click a live sample to review. But everything that's measured as event can also be converted into a conversion quickly and easily. That was unheard of in old universal analytics. You had to do everything manually. It was very tedious. It's a lot more streamlined in GA4. So in this example here, we have page views, session starts, and G-tag dimension. All these events were automatically created by Google Analytics. They create all the events. You can create your own custom events as well. These events here, same idea. We can see how many times they were triggered, how many users caused them, how many were returning, and all this can be customized just like all the other dashboards and cards as well.
You notice some of the new things it shows is even scroll and click. So just knowing how many folks are clicking from certain pages and over certain times. The things, I mean, that's an event. If somebody's on the site and they're clicking deeper into pages, that's a plus. So this is going to be some newer data that in the past we were not able to gather or nearly gather in one place. So we're still even figuring out a little bit as to how to position it in what it means or what it can tell us. But we know being able to record and understand actions taken on the site is a good thing. Both in the negative, hey, why aren't more actions being taken, and analyzing the actions that are taken. So that's definitely a big plus in the screen that we see putting a lot of value in and probably a lot of impact as we look to evolve sites for our customers, everybody on this call, looking at where people are taking actions and aren't, and then reacting accordingly. So that's going to be a great tool that's now at our fingertips that in the past was available in bits and pieces in places. So that's a big plus. So our minus is we don't have old data and they govern some stuff. The plus is they're telling us more about what people are doing right on the pages.
Yeah, it's very, very useful, and I actually look forward to using it moving forward. So that's a plus as well. But as we already discussed, but as I said, old data is not going to be populating no more after July 1st. Google will give us access for at least 6 months to that data. That'll give us a little time to work on it the whole rest of the year. I do have a source link at the bottom, support.google.com, analytics/answer 115-83528. And we'll have a whole article on this situation here. Do you have anything further you want to expand on this, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of says it all. It's just, if you think you're going to want your data before the end of the year, you know, probably going to want to export some of the historical information. We're going to be doing that on a certain basis for our clients. So there's some value in it, but obviously the older it gets, the less valuable it'll become. And the other thing, because it's gathered in different ways, it's not as easy to compare directly. In some cases, you can compare it. In other cases, it's apples and oranges. So I think there's value in keeping it here, but accepting the fact that things are changing and we're now gathering information in a new way and we can get some new intelligence out of that is, you know, what I see as the key takeaway.
All right. So the last thing we want to cover is reports. There are reports in analytics. There always has been. They've done it a little bit different now. And I was just going to show you quickly how that is achieved. And there's two different ways. You can save it as a PDF or a CSV. So here's one. It's actually the page and screens report I'm on. And I'm gonna export this as data now. So I'm gonna hit share in the top right corner. And I can hit download file, and then right here you can select your export, and it sends it. It'll automatically download to your device. So that's how you generate reports. If you did the PDF report, it's literally the screenshot of this dashboard we're looking at here. The CSV report is a little more traditional data that we like to see. So that's about it.
Yeah, and the reality of the reporting was one of the things I was most anxious to see when they rolled it out. Pretty minimal, almost disappointing, such as the reports and the PDFs that John were mentioning that are easy to gather. There's no formatting beyond whatever you configure the cards.
Yep.
It appears as it said. So I think Google has remained that their goal is to get you to use their tool online. And if you want to export and save in other formats, they're counting on all the other partners that integrate with this data that let us create reports, because as all of you know, we send you monthly reports, and those are not generated from Google Analytics. So we'll be continuing to use an outside tool to do that, to send the things to you. Google Analytics has the ability to save and download in those two formats, but it's very minimalistic. It's not much more than saving a screenshot. So that part they kept their belief, and their belief is that you want to use this online. But as I said, we continue. We have a system. We send you reports at the end of each month, and that's going to continue. Just going to be a different interface, and they'll probably look a little different because we have some data that's different. And you'll be seeing those at the beginning of August, because our first reports from the new data will be gathered for July. But we're going to try and give you the same data in the same, just a nice clean format, so you can kind of know what's coming in and how things are being used.
All right.
So that's all we've got on reports.
Yep. And then after that, we're at our end here.
Yep. So we do appreciate. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, John.
No, I was just going to say I really appreciate everyone joining, and I hope you gain some valuable insights on the GA4, and look forward to moving forward with all that counts.